What's going on, guys? I hope that you're all having a wonderful day today. For those of you that are new to the channel, my name is Ty, and today in this video, we're going to be talking about Shrek 5 and whether or not it's a good idea to be making this movie, or if it's honestly something that DreamWorks should stay away from and just move on from. That's what I want to dive into here today, because guys, just the other day, for me, yesterday, for you guys when you're watching this video, 2 days ago, they officially announced that Shrek 5 is in production, and it's going to be releasing July 1st, 2026, which, believe it or not, is my 24th birthday. So yeah, in 2 years on my 24th birthday, Shrek 5 is coming out. Eddie Murphy teased this the other day while he was promoting his new Beverly Hills movie, or no, Beverly Hills Cop movie that's, coming out on Netflix. He was like, yeah, I actually already started recording lines for Donkey, and we got some basic information, just like who the directors are going to be. I'm not like too familiar with them, but they've already worked with Shrek before, and we know that the original cast is returning, like Mike Myers, Cameron Diaz, and Eddie Murphy. So yeah, seems like everybody's just coming back together, but the reality is, there's been a lot of bad sequels the past couple of years, so I really want to dive into whether or not I think that this is a good idea. Now listen, I could really, if I wanted to, just sit here and say, you know what, it's a good idea because it's Shrek, and then just say, okay, that's good enough, let me just press the stop recording button. But no, I want to give you guys a real in-depth analysis here on why I feel how I feel, which I'm not going to reveal yet, but yeah, let's just dive into this. The way that I want to go about describing my feelings with Shrek 5, whether they should or shouldn't make it, is going to be by comparing it to two other franchises that tried to make a fifth film, which I'm going to go into in a second. One franchise that failed at making a fifth film, one franchise that I think is going to fail at making a fifth film, and another franchise, Shrek 5, which I believe is going to succeed. So there you go. You got my answer. I think it's a good idea to make Shrek 5, but I want to talk about why, because that doesn't give you any substance. Let's dive into things here. The franchise that I believe already failed at making a fifth movie is going to be the Indiana Jones franchise. And yes, all these fifth movies are very new, so you guys will see what I'm talking about here in a second. Basically, last year, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny came out. It was like the highest budget film ever made. It had the most money put into it. It was like over $300 million. Basically what I'm trying to say, I don't know why I'm explaining in that way, it was the most expensive movie to make of all time. Over $300 million. Obviously, the first three Indiana Jones films everyone loves. I know that not everyone loves Temple of Doom, but I digress. We'll move on from there. The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, or Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I know that everyone was kind of mixed on. I feel like as time has gone on, some people have sort of been defenders of that film, but regardless, it was a disappointment. Even though I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong here, but even though that's also a Steven Spielberg film, of course, by the way, just want to throw this in here, those first three films had that Spielberg magic, literally, arguably the greatest director of all time, so those are classics, okay? They're set in stone classics. Again, moving on to the fourth, kind of a hit or miss situation there. But then we wait 12 or so years, 13, 14 years. I don't know the exact year that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out, but we bring out Dial of Destiny. Harrison Ford is very old, and at the end of the day, the reality is people just don't care about Indiana Jones anymore. People go to the theaters. It's a Disney film, so I feel like everything looked very clean, and it just wasn't that good. I think it's a fine movie. I think it's way too long. I really didn't like the way that things wrapped up in the last 40 minutes or so, which is practically like a fourth of the movie, because again, it's such a long film. Phoebe Waller-Bridges was pretty fun. Mads Mikkelsen was cool to see in there, but I just don't like the way that it tied things up, and I feel like if they wanted to end it with the fourth film, they could have. At the end of the day, whether this movie was really good or really bad, the fact that it lost so much money for Disney, I think that technically it's one of the biggest failures of all time. It made money, but the problem is it was so expensive to make that it just wasn't able to, really break even or anything like that. It lost a ton of money. Marketing costs a lot. But let's move on from there. Basically, what I'm trying to say is Indiana Jones, that franchise as a whole, failed. The next franchise that I think is going to fail, which is the one that's in the middle, is going to be, and this hurts me to say, the Toy Story franchise. I think it's pretty funny that these are both Disney franchises. Toy Story, one of the most iconic franchises of all time. Those first three films, just like Indiana Jones, are universally loved. Obviously, the creative minds behind this studio were just cooking. All three of them are good, super consistent. I absolutely love them. I grew up with them. I'm a huge Toy Story fan personally. Then it feels like they overstayed their welcome a little bit with Toy Story 4, but I feel like there's a lot of people that hate that movie, but there's also a lot of people that really love that movie. I'm kind of more on the love side. Don't get me wrong, I've only seen that movie like twice, and I haven't seen it in a while, so I have to really rewatch it to kind of get my fresh thoughts on it. But I really liked the ending, because I feel like Toy Story 3 ended Andy's story, but Toy Story 4 ends Woody's story. So you know what? I was like, fine. One of them's ending Andy's story, one of them is ending the toys story. Fine, I respect that they made it. I think it's pretty good, but we're done, okay? But no. Then boom, we're announcing Toy Story 5. What are we doing here? Why are we making a Toy Story 5? I'm giving you leeway. I'm already like giving you guys a little bit of slack here with a rope. Like, okay, fine, make Toy Story 4, I get it. But what are we doing here? What are we doing? Why are we making Toy Story 5? Again, I don't want to say that I know it's going to fail. It's probably gonna make money, but I don't know if it's gonna make as much money as maybe a Shrek 5, which I'm going to get into in a second. But I'm just saying, I feel like every single person's reaction to Toy Story 5 was like, really? I haven't seen one person that's excited. Because as great as this franchise is, as great as Pixar is, it's just overstaying its welcome. That's the reality. The story has been wrapped up twice. It's been wrapped up twice. We thought it was over with 3. Then it was like, okay, it's over with 4 now. I get it, though. It's fine. Some people were like, okay, whatever. But now 5? What are we doing? What are we doing? Just make something new. Moving on, though, now to the Shrek franchise. The whole reason that I'm making this video. The first 2, everybody loves. Honestly, I was more of a Disney kid. I didn't really grow up watching Shrek too much. I've seen the first 2, like, bits and pieces. I know that they're good. I do enjoy them when I used to watch them as a kid, at least every once in a while. But those are all-time classic animated films. 3 and 4, I feel like people are mixed on pretty much. Some people say that they're really bad. Some people say that they're fine. But either way, people just like the character of Shrek. There isn't really like this story that needs to be like capped off. This feels like a franchise that can keep going. And that's where I want to get into my reasons here. Because of the X factor. Nobody's talking about the X factor. What does that mean? Let's just talk generally here. What's an X factor? An X factor is something that really puts you in front of people. Let's just say that you're going out for a job, right? And you and another guy are kind of neck and neck. You have the same resume. But you just have a really great personality. That's your X factor. That's the thing that just puts you ahead, and it's something that you can't replicate because it's just so good. The X factor that Shrek has, the Shrek franchise, is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. The first Puss in Boots, I feel like nobody really cared about. That movie, I'm pretty sure, is like 10 years old, and everyone's like, yeah, it's fine. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, everyone was freaking out about. They were going crazy about it. And again, it wasn't like the first one was that insane. The animation was wonderful. The story was beautiful. The villain was great. And it was being compared to like Spider-Verse and all of that. It was another revolutionary type of animated film. The X factor for the Toy Story franchise after Toy Story 4 was Lightyear, which everyone was saying, wow, this is pretty much a disaster. That movie made like no money. It was a flop. And people didn't really like the twist at the end. I didn't personally. It was a movie where when I saw it at first, I feel like the nostalgia was blinding me. But over time, I've just disliked it more and more and more. Indiana Jones doesn't even have an X factor. That franchise is already dead. And it doesn't really matter because now it's done. It's over, like I said. They tried, they failed. But Toy Story is going into Toy Story 5 with their X factor being Lightyear. Where the difference is, Shrek's going into their 5th movie with their X factor being an insanely good animated film. The thing is, I get it. It's not the same director. It's not exactly the same animators, maybe, probably. I don't really know. But it's still the same studio. And DreamWorks probably woke up and said, whoa, this movie, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, didn't make $1 billion. It didn't even make 800 or 700. I'm pretty sure it only made like 450 million, if I had to guess. But it was critically acclaimed. People were loving it. There was on social media, everyone was freaking out like, oh my god, this movie's so good. So they learned, wait, what if we could, and keep in mind that I'm just like kind of hypothesizing here, what if we put the Shrek name with the quality of Puss in Boots, and don't get me wrong, Puss in Boots is tied to Shrek, but it's still not Shrek, and we combine them. Now we know what to do for Shrek 5 so that it's really good. And again, even if it's not the same director, it's fine. But they have the blueprint. They have the blueprint. So now they can move on and make Shrek 5. Moving on to my second point. Honestly, I only have 2 reasons. We look at Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is a classic franchise. Doesn't even get more classic than Indiana Jones, maybe besides like Star Wars, okay? Then we look at Toy Story, another classic franchise. Everyone loves Toy Story, right? Just overall, generally, people love it. Kids love it. Adults love it. Doesn't matter. But Shrek isn't a classic franchise. Shrek is a cult classic franchise. What do I mean by that? Shrek is always going to be relevant. At least, kind of. Shrek is still relevant in the modern day because, as cringe as it sounds, it's just always memed. Whether it's the All-Star song, whether it's just GIFs, this, that. People love to talk about Shrek. Get out me swamp, all that stuff. It's a cult classic. It is a cult-like following behind it. And I don't know if you guys remember, just 2 years ago in the summer, Minions Rise of Gru came out. People were dressing up in suits going to the theater because it was funny. It was like, the Minions, this is funny, right? Oh, the Yeet song came out, right? It was funny. It was a cult following behind the Minions movie. That's what's going to happen with Shrek 5. I'm telling you, it's gonna be like one of those Barbenheimer situations where it's really funny. It's like, oh, Shrek's coming out because it's like the movie franchise that everyone jokes about, right? And of course, it's just high-quality franchise. It's a high-quality franchise. But there's this cult-like following. A cult-like following. A lot of people grew up watching the Shrek movies, and they've realized as time has gone on, hey, those are pretty good, and they're actually pretty funny, which is why people still joke about them, which is why people still make memes about them and stuff. And combining the cult-like following with the potential that they've shown with Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, you combine those, and I think that if Shrek 5's trailers look good, and it looks like maybe something a little bit fresh, while still remaining to like the origins of like maybe Shrek 1 and Shrek 2, that quality, you easily have a $1 billion film on your hands. And not just a $1 billion film, because some $1 billion films are honestly pretty bad. A high quality $1 billion film. I have a feeling this is going to be a banger. And I know we're still 2 years out. Maybe we'll look at this video in 2 years and say, Ty, that movie made $300 million and it was really bad and it felt like everyone was phoning in their performance and nobody cared and the story was awful. But I have my reasons, like I just said, as to why I feel like this is going to be good. And I'm not even a Shrek fan. I have no bias, honestly. I have more bias towards Toy Story, which I just dogged on the whole video, than Shrek. Like, infinitely more bias towards Toy Story. But I think that it's a great idea to make it. And I know they teased it at the end of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, but you still kind of have to feel out your audience like, ugh, I know that we teased it, but are we really gonna end up doing this? Should we do Shrek 5? Do people care anymore? The answer is yes. There has never been a better time to do it than right now. Strike while the iron's hot. Yes, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish came out like a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, but it's still relevant. It's still relevant. I feel like if you waited 3 years, then you announced it, and then it still had 2 years to go. It's kind of like you're overstaying your welcome, like the Toy Story franchise. But it's going to be such a huge year for animated films in 2026. I think that this is a great idea from a studio perspective and even for the fans. I'm not trying to talk just like a studio executive. I feel like people want Shrek 5. They want that redemption from Shrek 3 and 4, which I know, again, it's kind of mixed, but when something's mixed, that means that it's clearly not amazing, because it's mixed. It's mixed reviews. But yeah, guys, I hope that you guys like this analysis. I'm on the road to 1,000 subs, so if you guys could subscribe, it would literally mean the world to me. But if you guys like these types of videos, I honestly really like talking almost in like a business way about films. And don't get me wrong, I still love talking about the movies themselves and reviewing them and what's good, what isn't. But I've really enjoyed making like business-oriented film videos, sort of like this. So let me know if you guys like this down in the comments below. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.